Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton Hawes, and today I'm going to be giving a recap and review of the Hulu docu-series The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, episode 5 today. So if you've missed episodes 1 through 4, make sure you go back and watch those first and then come back to this one. The reason I'm a good person to recap and review this is because I myself was Mormon. I was born and raised in the Mormon church, spent 23 years of my life in it, loved it. It was every ounce of my being and who I was. And my whole world came crumbling down when I found out that none of it is true and it's all made up. So I am an ex-Mormon, Utah living mom and wife. My husband and I met here in Utah. We're engaged 4.5 weeks after we met, and we're married 4.5 weeks after that. So typical Mormon Utah meeting and marriage and whatnot. So let's get started. The beginning of the episode, all of the girls are telling their partners about what happened during the girls' trip, and Whitney is telling her mom all about it. So the mom believes that none of them are her real friends, and they never were to begin with, because that is just not how friends treat each other. And then, yeah, it's basically just going around and you just see all the couples being like, and then this happened, and then that happened, and then blah, 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 blah. So everyone's just sharing. Then we find out that Leila is having a divorce party. So she invited everyone from Mom Talk and plus their husbands and a few other friends. Then we find out that Whitney left the Mom Talk group chat. And that seems to be, you know, the gossip, drop the mic, the big thing to like really start the episode. And Jessie says that she thinks Whitney left so that she would see who would check in on her afterwards. My perception of all of that is that Whitney did leave wanting people to check up on her. She says so many things throughout 5 of the episodes so far that imply that she wants people to check in on her. I also don't think that there's anything wrong with that to an extent. Like, people have their ways that they like to receive love, and maybe hers is words of affirmation. And I think, you know, our love language also bleeds into our friendships as well. It's not just, you know, our love relationships. I think it's any relationship. So she may want people to check in on her and affirm that they love her and they're there for her, and need that a little bit more than the average person. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think there's power in knowing that that's who you are and what your needs are, and being able to communicate that to other people. My love language is words of affirmation, and I can overthink what people say to me sometimes, and I could think people mean something that maybe they don't, and I could think that maybe people feel things towards me that they don't because of even body language. I feel like body language plays a role in that specific love language too, because it's a way of communicating just without words. And so I'm that way. However, I know that, and I communicate that to me. Everyone that's close to me knows that that's my thing. And so sometimes, as much as I'd love people to be able to read my mind, people don't. So I tell my husband, hey, I'm feeling really insecure about my body today, or I'm feeling really insecure in my role as a mom today. So if I look down or anything, like, maybe just keep that in mind and know that I might need a little extra reassurance in this area from you today. And I think there's power in being able to tell my husband that that's exactly what is going on with me that day, and he knows to just be like, damn, you looking good in that, you know. And like, I don't think that means his compliments or his reassurance is now not genuine or it's forced. I know that he loves my body and he loves me. I know that he sees me as a really good mom. He tells me those things all the time, but sometimes I just need to hear it a little bit more. So I don't think that, anyway, I don't mean to like ramble on that topic for 8 years, but anyway. Okay, so Jessie, Leila, and Demi. I've been saying Demi, by the way, but I think it's Demi. They go to Swig. I was actually just talking about Swig. And Jessie brings up to Demi, like, okay, so Taylor was our original queen bee, and she's going through a lot right now and can't really be here in the same way that she was able to in the past right now. And so everything was kind of on Whitney for a while, because Whitney's really organized and she's good at bringing people together and doing stuff like that, or not bringing people together. Whitney was just good at being like organized and planning and stuff like that. But since Whitney like left the group chat and is, you know, removing herself from that situation, she's like, Demi, are you our new queen bee? And she's like, I don't know, am I? And then there's like a little side interview and she's like, I don't need to be the queen bee or the leader per se, but basically I can get the job done. Like, she thinks that the group really needs somebody to bring everyone together and whatnot. And she's like, I believe that I could get that job done. So, oh my gosh. Okay, so Jessie tells Demi, she's like, you're the new leader of our cult. And like, they just start laughing. And I think it's ironic because I believe the Mormon church is a cult, and that's a whole nother conversation. And I realize that's offensive to Mormons, and I'm really sorry if you're offended by that comment. That is my personal opinion for a lot of reasons. Anyway, so I thought that was ironic. At this point, there's a phone call between Macy and Whitney, and Macy just wanted to check in on everybody. And she's like, you know, after you left the group chat, everyone was calling and be like, hey, like, what's up with Whitney? What's going on? And Whitney's like, that's weird because nobody called me, which I think it's interesting that Whitney wants other people to do for her what seemingly she won't do for other people. So it's my understanding that that's the reason so many people are upset about Whitney, or at Whitney, because she will talk about other girls in the group and she'll say, you know, maybe it's about Taylor, for example. And I'm just using this as an example. And she's talking all about Taylor to everybody except for Taylor, which, I mean, I'm using Taylor as an example, but it is actually Taylor. And Jessie is saying that Whitney does that same thing to everyone. Whoever the information is about, Whitney will talk about that person to everybody in the group except that person. And she won't take her issues to the people directly. And it's my understanding that that's, you know, a pretty big reason why people are upset in the first place. So it's interesting that Whitney wants other, like, why is everybody talking about me and wanting to know about me, but nobody's coming to me? And it's interesting that she wants other people to do for her what she seemingly isn't doing for other people. So that was just like a random thing that I was thinking about. Macy tells Whitney that she's like, should we get the band back together? Like, she's just kind of trying to be the mediator and everything, which I think Macy does a lot. I really like that personality trait of hers. And Whitney's like, well, I don't actually think that any of us are real friends. So she doesn't see the point in bringing everyone back together. Then there's a little side interview with Macy, and she says that she thinks Whitney pretends not to care about Mom Talk or the group, or is at least pretending not to care right now. But she believes that Whitney actually cares more than any of the girls in Mom Talk. At this point, the cameras shift to Jen and Zach's house, and they invited Taylor and Dakota to come over, and they're doing like a baby crash course training for Dakota since he doesn't really have experience around babies, which I must say is very common in Mormon culture. Somehow by 12 years old, you've got girls who can change diapers and burp a baby and swaddle them and put them to sleep and know all the emergency service numbers in case anything goes wrong, knows freaking CPR sometimes, or like helping get food lodged out of babies' throats. Like, oh my gosh, it's insane the amount of stuff that girls in the church know how to do by the time they're 12, where grown men about to have a baby have never changed a diaper, don't know any of this stuff, and have to learn for the first time. But that's beside the point. I thought that this was a hilarious scene, but basically they do stuff like preparing a bottle while you're holding the baby. And then Jen is like, oh my gosh, a lot of times the baby's like crying though because they're hungry. So she's playing like crying baby sounds on her phone in Dakota's ear as he's holding Jen and Zach's baby trying to make a bottle. It was really funny. Then they have him change a poopy diaper. They have him do the nose Frida. And if you're not a parent and you don't know what the nose Frida is, basically it is something that sucks snot out of the baby's nose. They used to use those things that like have a bulb on the end and you squeeze it and then you put it in their nose, and when you release it, it like sucks snot out. But those don't work super well, and in my experience, I would like squeeze it again and I felt like I was squeezing snot out of it when I would like need to get more, and it doesn't suck up very well. So these actually work so much better. It's like a little bullet type thing that you put in the nostril, and then it has like, it looks like a straw coming out of it, and there's a filter. So as long as you have a filter in there, you shouldn't suck any snot all the way up through that thing. And it's a really long like cord type thing. And you put one in your mouth and the bullet part up against their nostril, and you suck snot out of their nose. So he did that. Then you see him like holding the baby and feeding the baby while they're kind of talking about other things. And then Zach starts talking to them, and they're like, he refers to Taylor as his wife. And then he's like, oh, sorry, girlfriend. And Dakota's like, no, say wife, say wife. And Taylor's like, he's trying. And so, but Taylor says that she's not going to be pressured by anyone or anything to do something she's not ready to do. And she said that in a side interview, but I'm sure that she's had those conversations with Dakota as well. I mean, I know she has. She's had him on the show multiple times. It seems to be like one of their biggest arguments is Dakota wants to be married. Taylor doesn't want to rush into it, which is understandable. She has other children with another guy, and she felt really rushed into that marriage, and she was pressured by a lot of things when it comes to the church and her parents and what they expect of her. And this is like her now. Like, she wants to take control over her own life and be smart and careful about this decision, which I think is admirable and a good thing that she's doing. Like, if she's not ready, like, why force somebody into a relationship with you if you don't know that it's something that they want? And she's voiced multiple times that she has trust issues with him for a number of reasons. And I don't know. I wouldn't want to force somebody to be in a relationship that didn't want to be in it with me, because then you're just stuck in a relationship that you know that they don't quite feel ready for it, or, you know, whatever the circumstances may be. But that's just my opinion and view on all of this. Also, I think Dakota thinks that getting married is going to solve all their problems or the things that they fight about, and it's not. Like, if you have problems in your relationship and they're big enough of problems that involve trust, getting married is not going to fix that. Marriage genuinely is a piece of paper. It just legally binds the two of you. It's not a medication fix all therapy. It's not any of those things. It's not going to fix your relationship if you have issues in your relationship. Then the scene shifts and Leila is getting a tattoo covered up. She had 2 dots for her and her ex-husband, so she's getting that covered up, and she's getting a new one that is for her sister. It's just a tiny little one, and she says that her and her sister miss each other in life a lot, and that she kind of hopes that the tattoo will show her sister that she sees her and loves her and stuff like that. It doesn't give a ton of details around that. It's kind of a quick little scene, but she talks about how she, you know, it's kind of like ending a chapter in her life and she's starting a new one. She said that they were married at 19. It was a shotgun wedding. They were pressured into it because they'd gotten pregnant. And everyone, including the church, told them that it was the right thing to do, which the church's website actually talks about a number of things that involve pregnancy and relationships. It talks about abortion, adoption, pregnancy outside of wedlock, things like that. And every single one of those gospel topics essays on the church's website says that the couple should strongly consider getting married because it's what the Lord would want them to do if they're having a child together, and they should try to make the marriage work and to have raised the baby on their own. And then it even said, it goes as far as saying if the relationship can't work, then they should strongly consider giving the baby up for adoption. And if you're going to give the baby up for adoption, that you should go through the adoption agency that's run by the church. Okay, so then there's like a side interview with Demi, and she talks about how the church culture pressures people into staying in unhappy marriages just to try and make the marriage work. And she's proud of Leila for breaking that mold. I love Demi and a lot of her progressive ideas around the church. And I think she sounds a lot like I did in the church, at least probably the last like 5 years of my, I wouldn't even say 5 years, because I was still pretty strict on a number of things. I'd say maybe my last like 2 or 3 years in the church, I was a lot like Demi. I was very progressive and I had a lot of similar views that she did. It didn't mean that the church meant any less to me, but I definitely had a different way of viewing things at that point. I think you have to be there and in that progressive place to be open to finding out that the entire religion is a lie, in my opinion that I'm very confident in. But hey, I was very confident in the church at some point. So then at this point, a bunch of the girls, everyone except for Taylor and Whitney, go to this, what was it called? Axe and Smash, I think. Yeah, Axe and Smash, to get out some rage and to just, they were actually talking about this when they were at Swig, Demi, Jesse, and Leila. So they must have brought all the info to the other girls. Oh yeah, they invited everyone through the group chat, and Whitney's not in the group chat anymore, so she just wasn't invited. But yeah, they just like are throwing paint at everybody, and Taylor didn't go. I think it was mostly because like that can kind of be a dangerous situation for a pregnant person to go to. So the show pans back to Whitney and Connor's house, and Whitney is complaining to her husband about just a bunch of the drama. She shows them the picture of the girls at the paintball place, and she's like, he's like, how come you weren't invited? And she was just like, I don't know. And then she's like, well, I did leave the group chat. And Connor's like, oh, I forgot about that. But anyway, in this scene, I'm realizing that the kitchen in Whitney and Connor's house is not the same kitchen that was in their new house in the first episode. So the first episode, they had just gotten a new house. It had like green cabinets in the kitchen. And that's where she tried the champagne and she spit it out. And she's like, that's freaking nasty. Why does anybody drink that? And they're in a different kitchen. They had just moved from Hawaii. Like she was in Hawaii for 2 months. So they moved to Hawaii. She was there for 2 months. She moved back into a new house. And by episode 5, she's in a new house again. I'm confused. Did anybody realize that? Does anybody know why or what happened? Because nobody said anything about it. I'm just realizing they're in a different kitchen. Now the show pans to Macy, and she gets a little like time to show that she's starting up a new business. It's called Baby Mama. They're going to sell natal supplements. And then she has Taylor come and model for her like some of the supplements, since Taylor is very big pregnant. So when Taylor walks in, she's very annoyed to see that Dakota is also walking in with her. And Taylor said that it was kind of strategic. She wants her, Macy and Dakota, to talk because she knows that they haven't really been on good terms. They don't really like each other that much. And so Macy's like, well, can we do it another time? Because I just want to focus on this. So they agree to do it later. And then Dakota takes over the photo shoot and starts getting free pictures with Taylor and her belly. And now it has nothing to do with the Baby Mama photo shoot. And Macy's sitting there like, hello, I have this photographer here to take pictures for my supplements. But she's not saying anything, at least not on camera in this scene, but she's talking about it in a side interview. She's like, now the show's switching to Leila's divorce party, and it's funeral themed, because it's supposed to be like the death of her old last name and self, and everyone's wearing black, and I think it's really cool. I don't think Demi says that she doesn't think she would ever have like a divorce party or do something like that. I don't think I would have ever thought to do something like that, but I think it's kind of cool. I mean, why not have a reason to celebrate in a way that's like not necessarily disrespecting the, her old self? Like, that was a chapter and it's closed, and now we're going to celebrating that, what's ahead and what's to come. Demi at this point also says that Leila is probably one of her closest friends, which I was kind of surprised by that, because I don't feel like I've seen Demi and Leila together a lot, at least like camera time. They haven't had a ton of time where it's like just them, or I feel like they are clicking or anything like that. Maybe they're just trying to be respectful with like it being a mom talk show, and they're trying to like be with everybody and not kind of click off or anything like that. But yeah, to me, it was like, Leila's probably one of my closest friends. I'm like, whoa, it's kind of interesting. Then all of a sudden, Whitney shows up to Leila's funeral party, divorce party, and everyone is all of a sudden, you just see everyone's heads turning, and they have her, like, Whitney coming in slow motion with Connor. Also, what the heck was Connor's hair in this scenario? Like, not trying to be petty, but I was just like, but yeah, everybody is just like looking at Whitney as she's coming in, and they're just like, what the hell is she doing here? Whitney tells Connor that she feels like really weird, and she feels like people are being weird around her, which I think makes sense. Like, there's obvious tension going on between everybody. And Whitney pulls Jesse aside for a conversation, and she starts talking about like the penthouse drama. She is remembering when Jesse had said, like, Jesse basically said, like, you talk about everybody behind their backs in this group and never to anyone's face, and we all feel that way. Whitney is saying that like nobody reached out when I left the group chat, and Jesse asks her, like, is that why you did it? Did you want people to reach out? She's like, was it utterly a test? And Whitney says, no, she didn't. She just didn't want to see it anymore. She had to remove herself. She was protecting her peace, and that's like her reasoning, which I feel like both can be true at the same time. Like, you could want to remove yourself and protect your peace, but also hope that people check up on you because you want people to care about you, and you would assume that your closest best friends do care about you. So I could see the fact that nobody reached out adding to that feeling of like, okay, yeah, they're not my friends. Really, nobody cares. Again, I still think you have to communicate because people can't read your minds. If they feel like you're being drama and that this was a test, then a lot of people are probably just going to be like, dude, you can't just act like that. I don't know. I see both sides in this scenario, but I ultimately think that communication is key. At this point, the party is over, and the show switches to Taylor and Dakota inviting Macy over, and the intention is to have Macy and Dakota clear the air. And as Macy starts explaining that she had an abusive ex, and she clarifies that she doesn't think Dakota is that way, she's like, I don't see you as an abuser, but I do see you using harsh words towards Taylor, and that's just a quality that she had in a previous relationship that was really bad. And so for her, it's just a red flag. It's kind of like, this happened to me. I don't want to see this happen to one of my best friends. And so I have walls up. I see the red flags, and I want to protect my best friend, and it's ultimately out of love, and I want what's best for her. And Dakota is like, well, I just want you to have what's best for us. And she's like, I do. I'm just saying that's not what I'm seeing. There are red flags and I'm going to care about Taylor and what's best for her because she's one of my best friends. Like, and that's how she sees it. I'm fully on Macy's side about this. Dakota gives me major red flags too. He kind of gives me the feeling that like he's playing an act on camera, like he's trying to be something he's not. or that he's just trying to show the absolute best side of himself. I just kind of get that vibe. I feel like I pick up on vibes pretty well, even through screens, okay? And I know I know it's reality TV. I know things can be twisted a certain way, but you can't change what's coming out of someone's mouth. You can change faces and reactions to certain things depending on how you edit it. You can change, when certain things are said, but you cannot change words that are just coming out of someone's mouth. You can't change that. And or body language, that as well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about all of that. Basically, it turns into a fight between Taylor and Dakota, and Macy barely got any words out, at least the way it was edited. And she is just like sitting there in the middle of this. It like side pans to Macy in an interview, and she's like, I don't feel like I should be here. This is awkward. They're just fighting in front of me. But yeah, Taylor starts crying about how she just feels like she has trust issues with Dakota still, and she's not ready for marriage and this kind of relationship. And it's just like the same fight that they've been having. And Taylor ends up spilling some tea, and she says that he hooked up with 2 different girls while they were in the talking stages, and they were sleeping together, and he lied to her about it, so she can't trust him. And Dakota just starts raising his voice and saying that she shouldn't have had a baby with him if she didn't trust him. And which is like, that's obviously something you can't change. You're so close to having the baby at this point that like you likely very much so already love the baby and can't wait to see the baby and have the baby and hold them in your arms and just live life with that baby. Like, you shouldn't be talking about it in that sense, in my opinion anyway. Because, this, I don't know. I just didn't like that. It kind of just gave me the ick. Taylor's dad in a previous episode mentions like, oh, you shouldn't have gotten pregnant then or whatever. And it's just like, why do people say that to somebody who's currently pregnant? It's like, what do you want me to do about it? It's like the, what's it called? Like, don't tell someone something that they can't change or fix in like 30 seconds or less, because if they can't change it quickly, then all you did was make them feel bad about themselves anyway. But yeah, I just didn't like how, I don't feel like Dakota's very good at communicating. I feel like he just like whines about the same things all the time, and he says things that just don't fully make sense, or he says things that just sound like he has to be so naive. And I mean, I think he is naive in the sense that like he thinks that marriage is going to solve all of their problems. Like, if you guys are fighting on a daily basis, why do you want to get married? Is it because of the church and because you just feel like because you're having a baby together that you should get married? Ideally, you are with a person that you want to be with for the rest of your life or a really long period of time when you're having a baby with them. That is the ideal scenario for most people. But just because you had a like oops pregnancy, but you still want to carry out the pregnancy and you want to have this baby and love this baby, doesn't mean that the 2 parents are going to automatically have a great relationship or that they should be together. Personal opinion, but I think he's kind of naive to that, and he thinks that marriage is going to solve all their problems, and it's not. So that's how episode 5 ends. Stay tuned for episode 6 if you like Mormon content, ex-Mormon content, learning about faith-based type things, or you liked hearing me ramble about this. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Comment any of your thoughts on any of these topics. Do you have a favorite character? I know they're not characters, but a favorite person on the show? Is there anybody that you don't love? Do you feel like Dakota has any red flags? If you do have a favorite person on the show, like, why do you like them? Just like, let's have a convo below. Let's all get chatting. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. I love you guys. Thanks so much. See you in the next one. Bye.